Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza, and finally it's time for real actions. Now, before going any forward, we need a context menu in our work view because we want to have a way to draw our nodes, to create our nodes actually, but without a context menu, we won't be able to, because if I'm gonna make nodes here, graphs, buttons, whatever, sometimes I won't have even enough space in here right now, as it is. So I decided with a right-click context menu inside work view. That would be the best approach. So inside work view, after the constructor and when we are updating the view, let me see. Yeah, there are tons of things I didn't do. So I'm calling the base on top. Actually, I can call the base down here. After this, I should say process events, and remember it's just something that we had, so event from the base class. And well, let's do that public override process event. And why don't I see that inside here? Where are you? Editors, base view. It become protected. Okay. So protected override process event, and it returns void, of course. Where are you yelling at me? Protected override process event. Meh events. Okay. So after I finished one of the Unite conferences. So after calling the base, remember we want to call the base for whatever reason I may decide to put something in the base later on. Then we say if current graph does not equal to null and current graph dot nodes dot any using link that node goes into the condition of node dot boundaries, node boundary that contains e dot mouse position minus new vector 2, and I will tell you what's going on here, of 0 comma toolbar height that I don't have yet, then do stuff for me. The stuff that I want to do is simply return. What's this? Well, the way I'm drawing this is that I'm using areas, and because of that, my mouse position inside work view has an offset with the toolbar height. So if I really want to be able to calculate heights here, I have to compensate for that toolbar height. And the toolbar height is something that I need to add right now and address it right now. So I should say on top that I have a serialized field, why not, a public float toolbar height. Now, where do I am assigning it? Inside my work view, my node editor window. When I'm doing these guys, before doing any one of them, after capturing the event, I will say work view dot toolbar height equals to position dot height multiplied by 0.05 f. Okay, And yeah, that's that. You see that the toolbar height is 0.05% of our position height. That's why I'm calculating it this way. Okay? So I'm assigning that there, and I'm checking if my mouse position minus this height is inside one of my node boundaries, and I will speak about node boundaries later on. But if, well, basically what I'm saying is, if my mouse is on one of those node graphs, then I don't want to show any context menu. If where I'm clicking or when my mouse is outside of this node boundaries, on any node boundaries, then I want to do stuff. We say if viewRect still contains e.mouse position. So basically, if my mouse is still in work view, then we say if e.button, come on, not e, @ event, come on, @ event dot button equals to 1. So if I'm right clicking my mouse, do something, else do other stuff. What I want is I will say hide cursor, that's a method that I want, equals to false. So I will show the cursor. Then we say cursor dot visible equals to true. After that, we say process context menu, a method that I will add, and we say mouse position that I don't have yet equals to event.mouse position. Okay, and a semicolon there. Else, I will say cursor dot visible equals to false. Now, let's start one by one. I will have a serialized field of private vector2 of mouse position. Mouse position. Okay, and that's this one, mouse position. Then I will have a serialized field of public bool hide cursor, and that is cursor body. Okay, now that's that. And of course I will have more stuff, but later, not now. Well, let me add this one. A serialized field of public graph work view, and I will call it instance. And a serialized field, this one is private, it's a rect, adjusted rect. That is again a rectangle that is for compensating for that height, toolbar height. So here we say mouse position inside our constructor equals to vector2.0. Then we say adjusted rect equals to new rect. And then we say hide cursor equals to true. And instance equals to this. Okay? So, here, after we process the event in update view, we say adjusted rect equals to, new rect of viewRect.x, comma viewRect.y minus toolbar height, viewRect.width, and viewRect.height. So basically, if I was drawing this rectangle, you would see that this rectangle would be drawn from here, but up to here. Okay, so this height would be minus from there. And then I will say GUI layout dot begin area of viewRect, and of course I need to end it, so GUI layout dot end area. And here we say if current graph does not equals to null, then we want to say current graph dot update GUI with the event that we sent in, but for the rect I will use this adjusted rect. Okay, so right now current graph dot update GUI, if you look, does nothing. It's just empty. Okay, but later on this is responsible of doing stuff, maybe. Now we are finished with our update view forever, and we need to call our process context menu. Okay, now we say generic menu inside Unity editor, and we call it menu equals to new generic menu. After that we say menu dot add item new GUI content. The content we want is create graph, and here we say false as being a boolean on, and then we say context callback, that is a menu that we will create, that's a method that we will call, we will create ourselves, sorry, and then we send in create. Okay, one more, and that is load graph, and we call load. Then we say if current graph equals to null, simply return. Don't do anything else. Otherwise, we want more menus to be added. One of them is unload graph, and we call it unload. Then we want clear graph, so we want to clear. We want to delete a graph. Okay, and here we want to add not an item but a separator, and the separator is just an empty thing. After that we want to add another separator. Okay, now we want to add more things, but under a menu subsection. So we make a subsection called general, and we add the float node, and we send in the float. And we want to make another one under the math. And that is the add node, and we call it add. And here I will say menu.add separator inside general and another separator inside math. And that's capital M. So at the end of everyone, I will just make another node, and that is test. Okay, and I will call it test. Now, we want to generate this context callback. So if I hit Alt Enter, you will see that it became red, but it imported something on top, and I'm not sure what. What's this guy? System.threading? Yeah, and I don't want that. System.threading is not what I want, but I want a private void context callback. This guy will accept object obj. Okay? And suddenly there is no errors anymore. Now, here I want to say, well, I was going with switches, but I want to change it. So we say if, and I want to say var command equals to obj.toString, because we know that we are sending in strings. So we say if command equals to create, well, we simply say node pop up, no, I changed the name, graph creation pop-up dot init, and we return. Okay, then we say if command equals to load, we say graph utils dot load graph, and we return. Remember, I'm using the overload that accepts no name, so it will open a file browsing dialog. Then we say if command equals to unload, we say graph utils dot unload graph and return. Then we say if command equals to clear, we say graph utils dot clear graph and return. If command equals to delete, be careful about your spellings here. There is no way to find why it's not working if you have misspelling. Current graph dot related graph dot name, no, graph name, and return. Then if command equals to, oh yeah, otherwise we want to do stuff differently. Now we say graph utils dot create node, and we send in the names. Now the names are a bit important here. Every name that I will send in will have a node at the end. So I will say command plus node. Okay? And I need to create this method string, and this is node name. Delete. And move it on top. Now what we will do here inside our, if I find it, inside here is somewhat close to what we had done on create graph. So the first thing we want is get the type of the node from the name we sent in. Then we say generate the node and node schema, bind the node to the schema, and initialize each one. And actually this one should happen here. Then find the current graph schema, and at the end we say current graph schema's active node, or I should say selected node, equals to the schema that we created. Okay, so this is basically and at the end asset database, save and refresh, and things will happen. Of course this guy happens more than once in this method, but this is what we will do later on. I just want to finish this work view first. Okay, so this is what will happen. If you look at my previous work view, I had done things a bit differently now. In previous work view, I was sending these commands, as you see, and I was using a switch case that caused me to do check for each and every one. So this was my previous context callback. So yeah, page down, page down, page down, and basically that was the whole thing until here, line 564 from 240, near 320 lines just to create my nodes because I didn't use reflection. Okay, now at the end you see these two. Well, let's just copy paste them. So what I'm doing after creating, I'm setting back the cursor to unvisible and high cursor to true. Okay, now something to mention, when you are using type of, behind the hood you are using reflection. So you are getting a type by doing this. So what I decided to do inside the project outside of R&D was that, hey, you know what? I'm, for example, naming my float node to be this float node. So if I just send the float in and add the node here myself, then by using my reflection utility, I can get the type from this string, and that's it. So I don't need that 300 line of code. I just need this. And you see that it says convert to switch. It can do that. Yeah. And well, basically, if any one of these switches met, then we have this part. But I can say case default, do this, and then return. And I think it didn't need the case name. Yeah, default. Okay, but now I remember that I don't need to return, I need to break, because I'm doing something at the end of the case statement. Okay, and just so that you know it's working, let me come here, and on top I put a debug.log creating node plus node name, so that you know that it's calling properly. So build this, and if I go back inside here and it will recover itself, you see as soon as my mouse enters this graph view, I lose everything and I don't get my graph view. Damn it. Yeah, why didn't I get my graph? Let's track this bug down. Debug.log context menu. So I'm calling the context menu. Oh. One very important thing that I forgot is that when you are making a context menu, you need to show the context menu. So we have developed our context menu, but we are not showing it. So at the end of everything, we want to say menu.show as context menu. Okay, so build. And if I go back, and I don't get my mouse, well, here's our context menu anyway. Okay, and here's our context menu. So for example, if I hit test, you see that I'm creating the node test. If I go for math, add, we will get add. If I go general float, we get float, and you see those separators that I put every now and then here and there. Okay, so yeah, but now I lost my mouse to put outside of the test graph. So how can I make this happen? That will come in next episode. Until then, have fun everyone. Bye bye.